Hello and welcome to another edition of On Our Terms, video series by AIA Contract Documents. We are your hosts, Mike Koger and Jimmy Germano. We are both staff attorneys with the American Institute of Architects. In this video, we're going to be talking about AIA A201 2017 Section 3.6, which is entitled Taxes, which is, of course, everyone's favorite topic, specifically who pays taxes on a construction project. It's important to remember that this isn't legal advice, and you can see our disclaimer slide for our full disclaimer. With that, Mike, take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, Jimmy. Let's talk taxes. Specifically, we're going to talk about who is responsible for paying sales tax on goods that get integrated into the project and services that are performed on the project. We're going to be looking at, as Jimmy mentioned, Section 3.6 of the AIA's A201 General Conditions document to find our answer. Turning to Section 3.6, it tells us that the contractor is responsible for paying sales, consumer, use, and similar taxes for the work provided by the contractor. Now, practically speaking, these are all items that the contractor should be accounting for in its lump sum pricing, if they're using a lump sum contract, or things that will be reimbursed by the contractor or to the contractor in a cost-plus contract. As for the types of taxes mentioned in this section, I imagine most people are going to know what sales taxes are. These are the kind of taxes that retailers are obligated to collect on behalf of the state, basically taxes on anything bought and sold. I should mention that neither Jimmy or I are experts on tax law, so full disclosure, I had to do a little bit of research to figure out exactly what consumer and use taxes were. Before shooting this video. I actually found out that these terms are often expressed as a combined thing, consumer use taxes, and occasionally they are mentioned separately, so maybe there's a bit of a difference between different states and how they phrase these terms. In any event, these terms are used to describe taxes that are paid directly to the state by a purchaser when the retailer has not actually charged the appropriate sales tax at the time of the sale. This often happens if you have a seller that resides in another state. So in other words, just because you as the consumer might not have paid sales tax on a purchase doesn't mean you don't owe tax when it's due in the form of use taxes or consumer taxes. The second part of the sentence makes clear that the contractor is responsible for taxes that are legally enacted when bids are received or negotiations are concluded. It's pretty common that a new tax might be enacted at one point in time, but not be effective until a later point in time, right? So if a new sales tax is enacted in the middle of the year, but set to become effective on January 1st of the following year, and contract negotiations are concluded in that in-between time, the contractor is going to be responsible for paying those taxes, that new tax, to the extent that it applies to the project. So practically speaking, what this means is the contractors are going to need to pay attention to new tax laws that might be in effect or might have an effect on this obligation. So you need to be aware of new taxes that actually become enacted because you may be required to pay them. Lastly, I should point out that not all of a contractor's clients are going to be required to pay sales tax. Governmental agencies, foreign embassies, for example, are going to be exempt, and they should be modifying the language of A201 to make this clear. As an owner in this situation, what you should be concerned about is that a contractor who includes tax into its lump sum contract might be artificially making that project more expensive, and then they don't actually have to pay the sales tax when it becomes due. So you're going to want to figure out right up front before you actually enter into your contract whether or not the entity that you're working with, who is the owner of the project, is tax exempt in some way, and make that clear and edit the contract accordingly to make that clear. And that's it. Jimmy, did I miss anything?
I actually have a quick question, Mike. So this slide here, perfect on the screen, you mentioned this in reference to lump sum contracts. What about, do you have any thoughts as to whether or not you'd have to modify Section 3.6 if you're dealing with a cost-plus contract, where, you know, if you're dealing with an owner who's tax exempt on a cost-plus contract, then those costs obviously might not include taxes that would otherwise have been anticipated to have been included. So would that be the kind of thing that would need a modification as well?
I mean, it never hurts to clarify these kinds of things in a contract, but I guess with a, I guess the concern I would have is more in line with the lump sum contracting, adding in costs that the owner really gets no benefit from. If we're just talking about a cost plus project where you're just reimbursing amounts spent, theoretically, of course, the contractor would not be spending any money on taxes, and therefore they just would simply not get it reimbursed. But again, I think that's probably something that, if you are an owner and you know you're tax exempt up front, you should be letting the contractor be aware of that so that the contractor can, can actually, make that known when they're coming time to purchase things so that they can actually get the tax exemption on behalf of the owner. Does that sound about right?
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Excellent. So if you would like to learn anything more about our contracts, please go to aiacontracts.org/learn. You can also, if you like this video and want to see more that are similar to it, particularly about the A201 contract, we've done a number of those recently, go to our YouTube page and hit like and subscribe to our page so you can get notifications about new videos that we produce. If you have questions about our contracts and the content in them, you can email us at docinfo@aia.org, and if you have tech support related questions about our software, go to docstechsupport@aia.org as well. And that's it. Thank you very much.